Here we go with the final set of notes in our evolution unit, this one on the patterns of evolution. We'll talk about how organisms can evolve relative to each other and how new species evolve. The first pattern we're going to talk about is convergent evolution. Remember, co means together, so these are two or more species evolving to become more similar, to be similar to each other. So for example, sharks and dolphins. We've been talking about how dolphins, which are types of whales, originated as a wolf-like ancestor or something to that effect. So you have a wolf over here evolving this way towards a whale, and you've got fish evolving more towards the shark, and they're becoming more and more similar. They're coming together in similarity. Another type of evolution, basically the opposite of that, would be divergent evolution. This is two or more species becoming less similar. So again, if you want to draw our little arrows, if you had a clam and a squid, these guys are both mollusks, so they're in the same phylum, so they probably have a common ancestor. But you've got clams that are going this way, right, turning into this sessile organism that just hangs out filter feeding on the bottom of the ocean. You've got squid, which are very mobile, can move all around, can catch their prey, no shell, very, very soft-bodied, obviously becoming much, much more different. This is a type of divergent evolution. And finally, you can have coevolution, where two or more species are evolving together. This could be something where they're evolving in a cooperating sort of way, like the shark and the cleaning wrasse, which is a type of fish. So you have a fish that likes to get its meal in the teeth of very, very dangerous animals like sharks or like this eel, and they've evolved together so they need each other. This guy gets a nice meal, this guy gets his teeth clean, gets parasites and whatnot removed from his mouth or gills and things like that. Same thing with this guy. They sort of need each other. But it isn't always friendly. It could be just two things evolving and making each other faster or stronger or whatever. So think of a predator-prey relationship, right? The shark might get faster or more fierce to eat its prey, and some prey item would become faster to escape predator. In this way, they're constantly affecting each other and evolving together. One gets faster, the other gets faster. One gets more toxic, the other one gets the ability to resist the toxin. One develops better camouflage, one develops a better way to find them, things like that. Organisms always evolving together and with each other. Divergent evolution specifically could lead to the evolution of a new species, which is known as speciation. So these things can become so different that they end up becoming two new species, and a species being defined as organisms that can and will successfully mate with each other. And so this happens pretty much when organisms stop mating, right? As they stop mating, they stop exchanging DNA back and forth, and one diverges this way, one diverges this way. Since there's no mixing at all, they kind of do their own thing until they become very, very different. So you can see here, we've got this original species, and some are starting to evolve this way, some are starting to evolve this way, and eventually they're becoming more and more different. This guy's becoming shorter and fatter, this guy's becoming taller and narrower, and now we've got from being species A to being species B and being species C. And if you put these guys together, you could see where they wouldn't really be interested in each other anymore, as much as snails can be. And one of the ways we can do, or some of the ways we can do this, is by isolating the organisms from each other. And there's three different ways to isolate organisms from each other. Okay, first one would just be a physical separation. So in the case of the ocean, you have a current that might separate you from something else, right? If you're something small, a current can be a big deal, or bays, or even like a continent, right? If something were to go through the Panama Canal over here, being in the Caribbean versus being in the Pacific, going to be evolving and adapting in very different environments. You could have behavioral separation, where organisms have different mating dances, or build different nests, or build nests in different places so that they're not really interested in mating with each other. They're not attractive to each other. Or you could have temporal separation. So tempo, think of tempo being time. Their mating seasons are different. One fish is looking for its mate in November, the other one's looking for its mate in January. They're not looking at the same time. They're not interested in the opposite sex at the same time. So they stop mating, and again, they can diverge and create a whole new species. With all that being said, it's important to say what does not cause speciation. So this slide here is in direct result to incorrect answers I've gotten from tests. The number one thing that does not cause speciation is mating with another species. All right? It's not like this fish is on one side of the canal and this fish is on the other side, and the fish says, oh, hey, I can't get to the guy I want to mate, I'm just going to mate with his eel instead. No, it doesn't work that way. All right? There's so many reasons why they wouldn't mate together and why their offspring would not be viable, would not survive. Just think about the fact that many different organisms have different chromosome numbers, and you learned in Biology 1 what happens when you have just an extra copy of one chromosome. Could you imagine if you had missing like 2 or 3 chromosomes or 2 or 3 whole extra pairs of chromosomes? So there's no way you'd be able to produce a viable offspring, even if the eel did want to mate with the fish. Another one is mutations. A lot of people like to say that something mutates into another species, and that works well on TV, but guys, that's not going to happen in real life. It's not going to be like a lobster and a fish are hanging out next to each other, and a barrel of toxic waste gets dropped on them, and they turn into lobster fish. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It'd be pretty cool if it did, but mutations really only cause small changes in the genome. They can lead to evolution and lead to changes in a population, but they're not going to create a whole new species. There are some exceptions to this, or sort of exceptions to this, I guess. Down here we have a picture of a liger, which is pretty much the best animal ever according to Napoleon Dynamite. This is a male lion breeding with a female tiger. And yeah, they will breed if you, meaning humans, kind of make them do it. And the problem is the liger here, even though it's a pretty awesome animal, is sterile. It can't have babies. So for a couple reasons, this is not going to be a new species. One, these two organisms would not choose to mate together in the wild, and even when they do mate together, they don't make viable offspring. The liger has no way of continuing its species, so therefore it's not considered its own species. And with that, we are all done with our evolution unit.